Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 943 for the 23rd of September. And we go to the frontline changes report as usual, already as published. So we're going to do the frontline, the strategy and tactical reporting. So we go to start off from the Kursk front. So Kursk front, and at the Kursk front, the Russians are still on the counteroffensive, and the Ukrainians are still on the counteroffensive. So at the Glushkovo sector, for those that are uninitiated, Ukrainians are launching a counteroffensive over here. The Russians are launching their counteroffensive here as well as here. So this is the general strategic situation. So in case you guys are not familiar. So over in the Glushkovo sector, this is Glushkovo. At the Glushkovo sector, the Ukrainians are now attacking at Veseloye and Medvedze. So the fighting at Veseloye has returned after I mentioned that, why is there no fighting at Veseloye? So they answered by, attacking it. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces are trying and are getting destroyed by Lancet, and this is by, I think, a minefield. So the things are getting very tricky, and the Ukrainians are not giving up. They're trying to push through, and it's kind of weird. Why you have to go through that? But anyway, shellings reported at Novi Put or an attack. A similar situation over at Medvedze. So I believe this is because it's the closest direction towards Glushkovo. They think that they must take that. So maybe that's the reason. But anyway, they should have done it way earlier. Like I said, the window is over. They could have done it way earlier, but they didn't. So in the rear position from this Glushkovo sector, there is shelling reported at Obody, Pelivka, Bunda, Dibrova, Richki, Bilopilia, as well as Stukalivka. So generally, these are the ones over here are the main ones. But there's no more fighting reported at Tekhino at all for a long time now. So yeah, this is not going to work very well. Anyway, we move on to the western flank. This is where the Russian main offensive is happening. The Russians are attacking Lyubimovka, Darino, and Nikolaevo Darino. They shelled Zuravka, and at Tostilok, it's not necessarily an attack per se. It could be just shelling based on the way how it was reported. And there is shelling reported at Novo-Ivanovka. So geolocation of the shelling was shown. It was an airstrike. So this and then there is geolocation of Russian forces just off Ispanovka, changing the front line slightly, as well as there is geolocation of artillery system getting destroyed south of Zuravka. So it could be the shelling at Zuravka could be related. So this is the current situation in the western flank. So no change. The front line remains static. Around here there's no change of the front line. It could be a case where the Ukrainians are putting up a very good fight around here. But the difference between this and yesterday is that there's no counter attack being reported in this area here by the Ukrainians. Usually we have Ukrainians attacking Lyubimovka or Bukovka, but this time around we do not have this. So we just continue to monitor. Let's see how this goes. In the northern flank, of course, this is already just now mentioned already. The Ukrainians have reinforced Agovka. Reinforcement has been arrived at Agovka according to the Russian sources, which immediately attracted an airstrike on one of these buildings that allegedly holding these Ukrainian troops. There is also airstrikes over in the forest region that was already new, and just off Nedinov, there is also an airstrike, as well as at Malaya Loknia, there's also an airstrike. All these are geolocated. So this means that the Ukrainians are in these positions. Ukrainians have taken some grounds, or it could be just a clarification of the front line. We're not sure exactly which one it is. Most likely it's a clarification at Kemeshevka. So that shows the Ukrainians have a much larger area that they are holding. However, the weird thing is over at Malaya Loknia, there seems to be some Russian presence within it, and the Russian Defense Ministry themselves are reporting that they are attacking in the area of Malaya Lognia. The Ukrainians are counterattacking at Malaya Lognia. Of course, for those that have been following DPS reporting would already know that there's constantly clashes over Malaya Lognia, but the mapping don't make a lot of sense in the way where the Russian lines actually supposed to be. So tentatively, we have to continue to just wait for more clarification. And it could be the case where the lines are just too porous. The Russians can just constantly stream in supplies and reinforcement towards Malaya Lognia. That is also a possibility. Previously, we have Russians attacking Olovka region, Novaya Soroshkina region with shelling. So that could mean that the Ukrainians previously was there. So how the Russians reach Malaya Lognia is still a mystery right now at this moment. So we shall continue to monitor. There's shelling or fighting reported at Ruskoye, Porosnoye as well as Kositsa. Most likely it's just shelling around here. And that's about it in the northern flank. So Ukrainians of significance is just that they are still reinforcing Ogovka. So they are not willing to give up the land that they have conquered. So let's see how this continue to unfold. So over in the southeastern flank, the Russian forces are conducting their main counter-offensive in this area at Blakovo. Ukrainian forces are counter-attacking in this area. There's an attack or shelling reported at Chekhovskaya Konopelka as well as Martinovka. Similar situation, Ukrainian forces have there is a front line clarification or capture in the east of Martinovka, expanding the area that the Ukrainians actually holds. Shelling is reported at Myrny, Gocharovka, Malovoy, as well as Kurilovka. So this is the current situation around here. Largely, there's no strategic change. It's pretty much the same thing. Some geolocation of FPV drone strike in the middle of Sudja. So that's all. And I believe there's also one more shelling. Yes, there's one more shelling robot reported at Gornau. Yeah, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. There is a further shelling in the rear positions at Urudi. How do you pronounce this? Oroidi, Sumy, as well as Rakivka. So but these are all very sporadic, very little bit already. Over in the Khrushchev region, Khrushchev and this area called Budivenel. We have never have report of shelling here before. There's reported of shelling here, but otherwise it seems pretty quiet around here. Brusky also is the only one that is being shelled south of Khrushchev. So this area is totally dying out. There's not much things. And of course, again, Sonistivka was a reported shelling. Not sure if that's the correct position. It's so far away. So we move into the Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, we have the usual. The Russians attacking at Lipsy, Voschansk, and Taike. This is pretty much the same thing. Some geolocation at Lipsy of Ukrainian forces getting hit by FPV drones. So there is constant grinding away of the Ukrainian forces in this area here. Moving on, I saw in the comments, there's someone complained that, I always only talk about the Russians shelling, but it seems like the Ukrainians never shelled back. The thing is, the Russians talk about the shelling, the Ukrainians talk about getting shelled. Understand what I mean? The Russians don't talk about themselves getting shelled, and the Ukrainians don't talk about where they shell. So there is only reports of where the Russians are shelling. That's all. So they'll blame the reports. It's not my fault. So anyway, shelling is reported at Vasilivka, not important. Okay, so over in the Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front, Ukrainian forces counter-attacking over at Katerynivka. Russians are attacking in the region of Kaislivka, Petrostravneve, Petropavlivka, Sinkivka, Kucherivka. This is interesting. I talk about it in a while. And shelling report at Kupiansk. There's some frontline change over in the region of Sinkivka with the Russians straightening the front line in the forest region. This is based on Russian claims. And Kucherivka is very interesting because usually we have Kucherivka being mentioned by Russian Defense Ministry as probably shelling reports. They are just shelling those locations. But this is the first time the Ukrainians mentioned Kucherivka as under attack by the Russians. So which means that the Russians have actually progressed beyond Sinkivka, and they have now arrived probably from this angle. Probably because Kucherivka is around here. And the other area here, this is Petropavlivka. So the Russians attacking Petropavlivka. This is a pretty normal. So this is the other settlement. So this is Petropavlivka, this is Katerynivka. So there's a possibility that the Russians have already advanced south of Sinkivka, which is why we are seeing the fighting being reported at Katerynivka. So this is just something to take note of. It's a very interesting development. Of course, as usual nowadays, the Defense Ministry reports now is faster than the open source intelligence, which usually in the past is always the open source intelligence are faster than the Defense Ministries. This time around, the Defense Ministries are leading the way. So, it's a Muadi, if you understand what I mean. I lead the way now. Okay, and anyway, over in the Pischane front, at the Pischane front, Russian forces attacking towards Novoosinovo, Klushkivka, Kolesnivkivka, Kurylakivka, Berestove, and Stemakivka. There's some slight frontline change, moving towards Novoosinovo over in the northwest of Pischane, as well as some slight frontline change just east of Kurylakivka. Not very significant per se. So otherwise, these are the top one that we have already mentioned. The current strategic situation looks like the Russians are going all out in Pischane. So yeah, very, very tricky situation. The target, I think the Russians, is to take this amount of land and the crossing. Probably like this. This is the aim for the Russians right now. So let's see how this continue to develop. We move on further south over in the Svetove front. At the Svetove front, Russian forces are attacking towards Cherniskina, Druzhelyubivka, Makievka, and Nevsky. Geolocation of Lancet hitting a Ukrainian tank west of Nevsky was actually geolocated. So that's all. We move further south into the Kremina front. At the Kremina front, there is some weird situation. Okay, we have fighting report at Torsky and Dibrova. This is nothing special per se, but fighting is being reported at Serbianka and Dronivka. Dronivka is particularly very weird because this is by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry again. Serbianka is usually by the Russians. So Dronivka is a problem because this very far away from the established, the understood front line. We are talking about a distance of at least 6-7 kilometers. In the Sivas side is 15 kilometers. So even within Serbianske forestry is more than 10 kilometers. So where is the front line now? For the Ukrainian Defense Ministry to talk about fighting reported at Dronivka region. Maybe there is a chance that the Russians have already progressed like this. I'm not sure. I wonder if this is the case, which then can warrant the attack over at Serbianka and Dronivka. But we're not sure. There is no objective evidence to show this is the case. So we will just continue to monitor. But this is the first time we see Dronivka being reported as something. There's some fighting around this area since 2 years ago. So let's see how this continue to develop. In the Sivas front, the rest of the Sivas front, there's only fighting reported at Fedorivka. This according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The Russians did not mention anything about the Sivas front, so other than the Serbianka one. So we move to the Bakhmut front. So at the Bakhmut front, in the northern flank of the Bakhmut front, Russian forces attacking at Krychorivka, Kalinina, and Chasivya. So the usual, nothing new to report here. In the southern flank, we still also have the usual. We have the mysterious fighting at Preteshne, Klishevka, and towards Bilahora. So the front line continue to be uncertain. Maybe the front line looks something like this right now. To warrant the fighting at Preteshne. Again, this is by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So let's see how this continue to develop. Over in the New York front. At the New York front, the Russian forces are attacking Dashne. They're fighting in the area of Privnishne, Torex, Nelipivka, Oleksandropil, and Kalinove. So otherwise, there is no updates since the last crazy update that we have in this area here. And you can see that the front line over in New York is now looking very, very ridiculous. It's very big, the difference. So let's see how this goes. The furthest distance we can measure is around 4 kilometers. So the shortest distance we can measure is around less than 2. So let's see how this continue to grow. Moving into the Pokrov front in the northern flank, we have fighting reported at Zelenopole, Vozdevzenka, Novotoretsky, and Mario-Lyubivka. So pretty usual, and there's nothing new, nothing special about this area. Over in the Khodivka sector, heading towards Pokrov. This is Pokrov, by the way. So the Russian forces are attacking in this area pretty intensely, seemingly, at Khodivka, Mykolaievka, Krasnaya, Zuravka, Olivka, and Novokhodivka. This bottom two is by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They seem to be highlighting that the Russians are trying to retake this Krytia region, but the Russian side already claimed that they have captured it. So let's see how this develop. Krasnaya is by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry as well. So yeah, so Russians didn't really talk much about this area here. So let's see. So otherwise, pretty much nothing is moving over here. Over in the Selidove region, fighting is reported at Marilynivka as well as Mikhailivka. Nothing changes over here as well. And the main change is over in the Khernik region. The Ryba reported the capture of Zeleny Pershi. This comes after the Russian Defense Ministry first announced the capture 10 days ago. So no, now the Russian sources only acknowledge it 10 days later. The Russians continue to push in the northern flanking movement north of Sakharine as they continue to attack Sakharine, and they're still fighting reported at Ukrainsk. So so that's all from this Khernik region. Yeah, it's very touch and go. It doesn't seem to be very sustained. The Pokrov offensive is getting very slow. So let's continue to move on. Over in the Kurakove region, there is only fighting reported in the area of Georgievka, as well as shelling reported at Kurakove. Otherwise, suddenly there's not much reporting being reported around here. And we go further south. Over in this, how should I call this, man? Okay, so let's zoom out of it. So there's fighting reported at Konstantinivka, towards Katerynivka, Vodiane, towards Bohov-Yaslenka, VUHLEDAR, and Pavlivka. So the most significant currently situation is over at VUHLEDAR as well as in the Katerynivka region. So at the Katerynivka region, Russian mapping have shown that the Russian forces have made progress towards Katerynivka as well as the securing of the southwestern part of Konstantinivka. So this currently is ongoing as the Russians continue to push towards Katerynivka. The distance from the settlements to the front line is now less than 1.2 kilometers. It's getting very close. So the Russians are getting close and they're about to be in striking distance already. I think perhaps they are already in striking distance on Katerynivka. So that's all from this area. And the other front line, of course, there's some front line changes around in the South Donbass coal mine tree, but it's not very important. The other one is VUHLEDAR. Footages has been coming out from the Ukrainian side of the Russians heavily shelling VUHLEDAR. They are shelling it like no one's business. And the Ukrainian source is now putting up posts that seems to prepare its audience for the fall of VUHLEDAR. So Deep State UA has mentioned about like how it's a bit too late to to manage the situation, like the forces, it's a bit too late to withdraw or something, So and then the Russians are bombarding it like like forever. The footages, the drone footage of this bombardment should be sent to their partners to show that how they need more support from the partners to fight against the Russian aggression. So that seems to be the case right now, which means that they are already preparing their audience for the fall of VUHLEDAR. And after this massive shelling, I believe that we're going to see the Russians going to storm in. Despite that, I don't think that it's necessary, but it feels like that seems to be the next move that the Russians seems to be going to do right now. So the flanking operations clearly is ongoing. We are just not seeing it at this moment. And the fighting report at Pavlivka might also suggest that the Russians are also pushing up north from Pavlivka to do a massive encirclement around VUHLEDAR. So let's continue to monitor the currently this is as much information as we have at this moment. There's no updated information as of now. It's now shrouded in operational secrecy. So we move on from this area. Over in the Velika Novosilka sector, there's only fighting reported at Zoleta Neva with the Russian forces, expanding their control in the northeast of Novodonetsk. So moving towards Zoleta Neva. So let's continue to wait. The progression is way slower than I thought it would be, given the speed of the fall of Prashitivka. So, and moving on, over the Zaporizhia front, there is only fighting reported at Novoandreevka. And are you fall asleep yet? No, I know I'm just droning on. No, and yeah, if you're falling asleep, have a nice sleep. And shelling is reported at Vasilyanka. So not important, very far away, and there is geolocation of Iskander strike on Ukrainian positions within the city of Zaporizhia. Not important as well. And over in the Kherson region, we have the usual, the fighting reported towards Pridniprovsk, and shelling reported at Kherson. Otherwise, there's nothing special about the Kherson front. And that's it. So this is the summary for the day of 943 for the 23rd of September. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.